Droners, what's up? And welcome to another edition of Droner News. And this week we have some interesting things like, drones planting trees and, literally people being arrested because they're doing stupid things with drones. So let's get into it. Number one, we have arrests made as drones smuggles contraband into a prison. Now, this one hurt my soul for a lot of reasons, but it hurt it mostly because we have a guy on our with Droner who does our research, and he found this thing. Well, I found this one, but I didn't realize when I sent it to him that it was based in my home state of Michigan, and he still put it on there, even though we were trying to make Michigan look good, Rob.
Come and get me.
But either way, all that aside, we should probably talk about this because drones doing illegal stuff that is really bad. But yeah, at Iona, Michigan, in the Richard A. Handlin Commercial Correctional Facility, there's a group of guards that were pretty much patrolling, and they were just like, "Why is there a drone?" And they just watched it, and it just started dropping stuff in the prison yard next to this cell block, and they're like, "Oh, that's why." And they walked over and was like, "What is this?" And as they were doing that, another package dropped right in front of them. And they didn't exactly investigate all the way through, but they said there was possibly some drugs. There was a cell phone and some drugs that may or may not have smelled like some skunk. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what kind of drug could smell like a skunk. Do you know, Rob?
I don't know.
No, Rob don't know either. So yeah, either way, they called the law enforcement, and these guys, there's three of these guys. Rob brought up a really good point on this one. He said, don't most drones have cameras on them? And how else would they know how to drop it, where to drop it in the yard, unless they're using a camera? But these guys stood there and waited for the police to not only be called, but to get to them while still trying to drop stuff without, literally these prison guards are standing there watching the drone. So it's what are you watching? You're not seeing these guys watching you and pointing at the drone, and then police coming down the street to come find you as you're bringing the drone back and following it back to you. What are you doing? And they got caught. So this hurt my soul on so many reasons. Number one, because it's in Michigan. Number two, because they're doing stuff illegally with drones. Number three, because they're just stupid. It's not only is it stupid to do this, but it's stupid on top of stupid. Just levels of stupid. So, sorry, home state, it's real.
Welcome to the list.
Yeah, welcome to the list. Number two, drones making volcano breakthroughs. I know we've talked before about drones working with volcanoes because drones like to do a lot of things that, take away risk from people because volcanoes make a lot of gases and hot things and stuff that kill people. And drones can take a lot of that, especially if they're designed to do that. And this one actually was a team up between DJI and the University of Mainz, Germany. And it was a study on the volcanoes themselves, actually. They use the Matrice 600 Pro. And they pretty much built a custom thing to be able to monitor the different levels of chemicals in the air and how that's interacting with the air as it's released, because we've never been able to get that kind of data. And it was a 6-day I can't say this, but it was a 6-day expedition. 6-day expedition to observe how those chemicals are reacting in the air after it leaves the vent. And all this data is really helping to understand how volcanoes erupt when they do, and it was overly successful. So this is one of those feeling good drones helping saving people's lives, helping predict volcanoes kind of story. Either way, I'm actually interested to see what this research really comes about. And this kind of continues another trend of drones working volcanoes, because we actually did cover drones doing a similar thing in Guatemala over an active volcano. So, this is the diversity of how to use drones never ends. So yeah, keep it up. Number three. Coming in number three, we have, are drones the next great herding tool? And if you have been flying around any wild animals or animals that are skittish in general, you will know this for a fact that drones scare the crap out of animals. They run like their life depends upon it whenever they hear a drone get anywhere near them, which makes me feel bad. I do my best to avoid those kind of things, but sometimes it's funny. But you shouldn't do that. Don't do that. But either way, farmers have been catching on to this, because obviously farmers are using drones already to start monitoring their crops. We even talked about some farmers using drones to spray their crops. Now farmers using drones to be able to keep their livestock where they want them to go, instead of having herding dogs or actually having to do it themselves. They're actually using the drones, and it's pretty cool. This is all over the world, you said, huh? Yeah. So farmers from all over the world, from Cali, bam, to Australia, where I just was, are learning to do this, and it's becoming quite an effective tool. The only real drawback of this is that the animals could get too scared and run too hard and have a risk of injury. So the biggest challenge to this seems like it's really going to be that farmers are going to have to learn how to acclimate their animals to drones, pretty much just have drones be around. be around them, but still like have a healthy fear of them, but just not like, oh my God, you know, I'm gonna die. More so like I should just stay away from that kind of fear. And so yeah, short term it might take time, but long term it might save money, which ends up saving all of us money on food if you really think of it like that. So it's a win. Drones helping people. Number 4, coming to number 4, we have the mandatory Spark update. We reported, I think last week or the week before, one of the two, that the Spark was actually having issues with some people saying that it just has a motor failure in the air and falls out of the sky. GoPro, excuse me. So DJI just announced that they're having a update, across-the-board update for the Spark that will go into effect on September 1st. And this is a unique kind of, well, somewhat unique kind of update for DJI. The geofencing update that they did made it so that you couldn't fly within certain parameters, or like only could fly a few feet in the air and a few feet away from you. So it severely restricted what your drone could do. Now they're actually saying that if you have a Spark and you don't update it by September 1st with this new update, it will not take off at all until you update it, which kind of falls into like a whole different category of like when Apple had the iPhone battle of like people jailbreaking their iPhones and they ended up losing in court because you technically own the hardware, so you can do what you want with the software. That ended up being like that, and so DJI is kind of taking a heavy-handed approach and saying that hopefully we'll avoid all legal battles, unlike Apple, and just be able to make you guys do stuff with your drones. So, you know, obviously it is for safety reasons, so I honestly kind of think you all should definitely update your Spark. But I don't necessarily like the idea of saying, of a company or DJI saying that you will update your Spark and just being okay with that. I think that it kind of sets a precedent that might be dangerous for us as drone pilots moving forward if DJI decides that, you know, that drones in general are no longer something that's good, then, or that they shouldn't be flying over 50 feet, then they can do that to all of our drones instantly and just set those kind of limitations on something we paid all these thousands of dollars for. Sometimes hundreds, but mostly thousands. So yeah, I know they probably won't do that, but it just kind of concerns me, like I said, setting the precedent. And also, they have, we all talked about last week, is the local data mode that DJI is coming out with, which I really like. But you should check out to the last episode to learn more about that. Definitely worth checking out. So both positives and negatives here. Either way, worth keeping your eye on, and make sure you update your Spark. Number 5. So coming in at number 5, we have in Myanmar, they have a problem with their delicate ear.
Myanmar?
That's what I said.
You said Myanmar.
I said Myanmar.
I heard Myanmar.
Well, you can go ahead and hear what you want to hear. I said Myanmar. Thanks,
over.
cameraman Tony.
Start over.
All right. In Myanmar, they have a problem with what's going on with their delicate ecosystems. Their ecosystems are pretty much dependent upon the mangrove trees that pretty much they absorb a lot of carbon, and they also are trees that help fight rising oceans, they feed fish, they absorb carbon. They do a lot of really cool stuff. Like if you've ever seen a mangrove tree, like their roots are very spread and they hold dirt into place. So they can make it so that erosions of certain areas and coastlines won't happen. They're very big trees. That's why an ecosystem can happen, because they create a web of roots that can have very specific types of fish and wildlife that depend upon those kind of roots to be able to be their home. So super, super, super dope trees, but only like 16% of the coastal mangroves are still left in Myanmar. And Myanmar, that's what I said. I said Myanmar. Myanmar. I can obviously say this way. Myanmar.
Good.
Thanks, Tony. So the World International Foundation, WIF, is teaming up with the British company Biocarbon Engineering to be able to, guess what? Use drones to be able to plant more of them, because it's really hard to plant in places that are really hard to get to unless you can fly. And, you know, we stay fly with drones, right? So that's what they're doing. They're doing like a 6-drone team, like a swarm kind of thing with one pilot that can do it 10 times faster than people and planting up to 100,000 trees a day, which is absolutely absurd. And the WIF, which is what I said, the World View International Foundation, and Biocarbon Engineering have already secured $1 million US, bam bam, for the project, and now we're just only waiting for the approval from the Myanmar. Did I say that right?
That was close.
All right. Authorities. I don't know why Cameron Tony thinks he can say it better than me. But either way, worth watching, because I hope this can happen, because hopefully this will set a precedent that, I like that word today, to be able to plant trees and have drones to be able to do that all over the world. Droners, thank you so much for checking out this edition of Droner News. And if you want to see more Droner News, we got them. Or if you want to see the greatest intro video to a drone channel that ever done be, yeah, that's right, Doyle, you hear it, it's up here. As always, please go ahead and be as fly as I be. Get one of these shirts, and the link is below. Or you can go ahead and support us with our Patreon page, because that is really a great way to do that. If you don't know what Patreon is, you can learn all about it below. Or at the very least, go ahead and subscribe, because that just makes us happy when you do that. And as always, make sure you stay fly.